Let's picture a hospital, just completely overwhelmed. You know the scene. Resources are stretched thin, the staff is totally exhausted, and pretty much every single decision is a race against the clock. So, in all that pressure, how do you make sure every patient is still treated with dignity? Well, in this explainer, we're going to explore a hypothetical case study on how AI can be used not to make tough decisions for us, but to actually help us get better and more prepared to make them ourselves. And this quote right here, it gets right to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? When people are pushed to their limits, it's just human nature to look for the most efficient path forward. But in medicine, efficiency can't be the only thing that matters. The real risk, as this quote points out, is that the dignity of the individual, that essential human element, just gets lost in the shuffle. So this whole phenomenon actually has a name: ethical fatigue. And to really get what that means, we're going to walk through a hypothetical situation where one hospital's bioethics committee decided they needed to tackle this problem head-on. So just imagine it, a constant, never-ending stream of high-stakes choices day after day. This isn't just your typical physical or emotional burnout. No, it's a very specific kind of exhaustion that comes from living in those moral gray areas all the time. That right there is ethical fatigue, and it can seriously erode the very foundation of compassionate care. Okay, so this brings us to the big question, right? A hospital like this, they don't have a huge budget for some fancy, expensive new tech. So how can they use AI tools that are already out there, maybe even free, to help build up their staff's, let's call them ethical muscles? The goal here is absolutely not to replace human judgment, but to find a way to support it. And that leads us straight to the solution, thinking of AI as a training partner. You see, the main job of a bioethics committee, first and foremost, is education. So they came up with a few ways to use AI as a kind of digital sparring partner, a tool for practicing the absolute toughest parts of their job in a safe space. The first tool they started exploring was something called interactive moral drills. Think about it. Some of the most difficult, emotionally charged conversations happen right at the bedside with a patient's family. This tool is designed specifically to build the skills for those moments, focusing on things like compassionate dialogue and really respecting a patient's autonomy. So how does this thing actually work? Well, a nurse could prompt the AI to role-play as, say, a really distraught family member who's refusing a life-saving treatment for their loved one. The nurse then gets to practice in a totally safe, private setting how to respond with empathy instead of just barking orders. Then the AI can actually give feedback, helping them see if their words came across as compassionate or, maybe a bit paternalistic. All right, let's move on to the second tool. This one tackles a much bigger, more systemic issue: justice. It involves using a massive, public, and totally anonymized patient database called Mimic to basically hunt for hidden patterns of unconscious bias in how care has been delivered over the years. And this is how a really abstract idea like systemic bias suddenly becomes very, very real. The staff can use AI to sift through literally thousands of these de-identified records and start asking tough questions. For example, did patients without insurance tend to wait longer in the emergency room? Seeing those kinds of patterns in black and white makes the whole team aware of the sneaky, unconscious biases that can creep into even the best-intentioned decisions. Now for the third tool. This one is for the absolute toughest calls, the ones that, frankly, nobody ever wants to make. It's called conflict resolution mimicry. And here, the idea is to use AI to simulate the potential outcomes of these impossible choices, helping the staff build what you might call ethical muscle memory. And in these situations, you get this incredible ethical tug of war. I mean, imagine you have two patients, but only one ventilator. On one side, you have the principle of beneficence. That's your duty to do the most good for the most people possible. But pulling on the other side is non-maleficence, the powerful duty to do no harm to the individual patient who is right there in front of you. Simulating these scenarios helps staff feel and navigate that tension before they're ever faced with it for real. So, these tools are amazing for training individual doctors and nurses. But that's not enough, right? How do you make this benefit the entire hospital? Well, this is how you make that leap from individual practice to creating better hospital-wide policy. It helps to remember that a bioethics committee really has three main jobs, and they're in this exact order. Number one is ongoing education, which is what we've been talking about. Number two is framing ethical policies. And number three is helping to resolve specific active cases as they come up. So, when it comes to that second priority, framing policy, AI can be an unbelievable assistant. It can summarize all the relevant past cases from inside the hospital. It can go out and research how other hospitals have handled similar situations. And it can even propose a first draft of a new guideline. But, and this is the most critical part, the final step is always human. The committee has to review it, debate it, and polish that final policy. It is a human-in-the-loop process, period. And finally, for that third job, helping with specific cases. AI, again, plays the part of a super-powered research assistant. So when a doctor or a family brings a really unique, thorny ethical problem to the committee, AI can instantly help them find relevant principles, past examples, and key points for reflection to help guide their conversation. Okay, so after looking at all these different ways AI can be used, what's the big takeaway here? It really comes down to having the right perspective on what this technology is and what it isn't.
And honestly, this quote says it all. An AI can't tell you what's right and what's wrong. It's not an oracle. It's a mirror you can use to practice tough conversations, a powerful search engine for finding hidden bias, and a simulator for exploring consequences. It's there to augment human skill. It will never, ever replace human wisdom. You still have to be the one to bring the ethical knowledge to the table. Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with. If AI can be a kind of sparring partner for developing empathy and sharpening our ethical reasoning in a field like medicine, what other uniquely human skills, things like negotiation, creativity, or even leadership, could we use this technology to practice and get better at?